Now, as promised, we have a dear friend of mine, a marvelous practitioner of the business of security policy. In fact, I think one of the foremost experts in the country today on the ways in which the law can be used to help our national security, or in some cases, and unfortunately increasingly at the moment, to hurt our national security. He's Andy McCarthy, a career prosecutor in the federal Justice Department. He was responsible for leading the team that successfully put away the blind sheikh, the man most responsible for the first attack on the World Trade Center. He is currently a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, but also has a very important position with National Review, where he frequently, daily, sometimes several times a day, is contributing to the policy debate. He's the author of Willful Blindness and a remarkable resource, which I'm delighted to have be a featured guest on our first program of Securefreedom Radio. Welcome, Andy, to the program. And let's start with what you've just written to Eric Holder, the incumbent Attorney General of the United States, which touches on a lot of issues we need to be talking about.
Well, thanks so much, Frank. It's a privilege to be here, and I imagine you can feel me blushing on this end of the line.
I can see you blushing.
Or maybe I'm just got my Irish up over the Attorney General. I sent him a letter this morning because I was invited with a bunch of former and current terrorism and national security prosecutors to participate in a meeting about detainee matters next week. And I found that after giving it a long think for a few weeks, and especially after hearing the Attorney General's speech in Germany earlier this week, I had to decline. And I've basically declined for two reasons. Number one, I think the whole enterprise is a farce, because even as the administration is purporting that it has this task force that's working hard to try to strike the right policy with respect to what to do about detainees, he's releasing detainees left and right, including a guy by the name of Binyam Mohammed, who a name that should be familiar to everyone but isn't, who was the co-conspirator of the so-called dirty bomber, Jose Padilla, the guy who was dispatched here. He never made it here, but was dispatched here by the highest levels of al-Qaeda to commit mass murder attacks in American cities. This administration released him about 3 weeks ago outright to England, where he's now living free and under public assistance.
Tell us about what they have in mind for the Uyghurs here in the United States.
You're exactly right. I was about to get to those guys. Any minute now, maybe even today, I imagine it might be one of these Friday afternoon dumps that they do with bad news, so to speak. The Uyghurs are these ethnic Chinese detainees who were actually apprehended after the American invasion of Afghanistan. They're trained jihadists. They were training at the camp of an al-Qaeda affiliate that's a formally designated terrorist organization, formally designated under a United States process for doing that. That means these guys under American law. Now, bear in mind, this is the Obama administration, the one that's always talking about the rule of law and how Bush was insensitive to the rule of law and trod over the rule of law. Under American immigration law, if you have been a member of a terrorist organization or if you have received paramilitary training from terrorists, you are excludable from the United States. We're not supposed to allow you into the country. And yet their plan is not only to relocate these guys in the United States, but actually do it at the expense of the American taxpayer. It's one of the most outrageous things.
Go into that. They're going to have us paying for the privilege of having terrorists free to operate inside the United States?
That's exactly right. Well, they don't regard them as terrorists. And, look, I don't want to be unilaterally critical of the Obama administration where they don't get it. There's a lot of blame here to go around, including, I think, and you and I have talked about this before, the military, I think, took an incoherent position with respect to the Uyghurs. They decided that they were more of a threat to China than anyone else. So they went in and told the court that, well, they're enemy combatants, but they're not really our enemies. They're really China's enemies. And
so therefore they're no problem for us.
Yeah, and the reason that they could take such a preposterous position in court is the thing that we've been complaining about for years, which is that there's been a complete suppression by the government, a purge of any discussion of Islamic ideology. Anybody who would spend 5 minutes familiarizing themselves with how our enemies think would know that they don't look at the world as a series of Westphalian nation states. They look at it as we against them.
Right.
And, maybe China was their immediate enemy, just like Israel is Hezbollah's immediate enemy, but they're part of the global jihad.
Right.
And the thought that, you could somehow say that they're China's enemies but not ours, and therefore it's okay to have them living next door to you, I don't think Americans are going to like that very much.
Yeah, especially if things go seriously bad, as
Right.
they probably will. Listen, Andy, we're going to run out of time before we run out of topics, and I hope you will be a regular contributor to Secure Freedom Radio. Let me just turn quickly to another very important topic that I know you've written about and are as concerned as I am about, which is the assault on our sovereignty.
Right.
That is reflected in, among other things, the Obama administration's decision to appoint this chap, Harold Koh, to be a senior State Department lawyer. We just had Senator Kyle describing some of his concerns about this, but particularly with your expertise in this business of lawfare, would you amplify on why you think this is a very dangerous appointment and the ways in which it could translate, perhaps not in the public eye very much, but nonetheless translate into real problems for our security and interests?
Well, look, Frank, I think the simplest way to explain it is that Koh does not believe in what I think most Americans believe in, which is a sovereign nation-state order, American exceptionalism, and the fact that what makes America safe is that we are a free, self-determining people who can make up our own mind and our own policy about our own defense. Koh inhabits a post-sovereign world where there really will not be these troublesome things like